Imagine a vast silent darkness. This is space. It is cold and empty. Through this endless night a traveler journeys. It is not alive. It is a rock, a very big rock. It is a mountain of stone and ice, hurtling through the blackness. For millions of years it has been on a collision course. Its target is a small blue world, a world teeming with life. This traveler, an asteroid, moves faster than a speeding bullet. It has no sound, no warning lights. It simply flies, a silent messenger of doom on a path set by cosmic chance long, long ago. 66 million years ago, the Earth was a different place. It was a world ruled by giants. Dinosaurs walked the land. They had dominated the planet for over 150 million years. They came in all shapes and sizes. There were enormous long-necked sauropods peacefully munching on treetops. They were fearsome predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, the king of its time. Its powerful jaws could crush bone. The world belonged to them. They were the masters of their domain, a dynasty that seemed destined to last forever. They lived, they hunted, and they raised their young under a sun that had always been kind. On the vast plains of North America, a Tyrannosaurus rex patrols its territory. It is a magnificent and terrifying creature. Standing taller than a two-story building, its massive head is filled with teeth like railway spikes. Nearby, a herd of triceratops grazes peacefully. These animals are like giant horned tanks. They have 3 sharp horns on their faces and a thick bony frill to protect their necks. Across the globe, other titans roam. In South America, giant sauropods, like the Alamosaurus, stretch their incredibly long necks to reach the highest leaves on the tallest trees. They are living mountains of flesh and bone. Soaring through the warm, dense air were the pterosaurs. These were not dinosaurs, but a separate group of flying reptiles. Some were as small as a sparrow, others were giants. Quetzalcoatlus, with a wingspan as wide as a modern fighter jet, was the largest flying animal of all time. Beneath the waves of the Great Tethys Ocean, another spectacular world existed. The most fearsome predator of the seas was the Mosasaurus. It was a true sea monster, growing up to 15 meters long. The oceans were also home to other fascinating creatures. Graceful plesiosaurs with their long, snake-like necks and paddle-shaped limbs moved through the water like underwater dragons. Beautiful ammonites drifted with the currents, filling the oceans in their billions. While the giants ruled the day, another story was unfolding in the shadows, hidden in the undergrowth, in burrows beneath the roots of giant trees, and in the darkness of the night lived our distant ancestors. These were the mammals. During the age of dinosaurs, mammals were small and secretive. Most were no bigger than a rat or a shrew. They had to be. To be big and noticeable in a world of titans was to become a quick meal. They were warm-blooded, which allowed them to stay active during the cooler nights when the cold-blooded reptiles were sluggish. They were covered in fur, and their senses were sharp, perfect for navigating the world in darkness. The silent traveler is no longer silent. As it hits the Earth's upper atmosphere, the air itself screams. The immense rock, 10 kilometers wide, compresses the air in front of it. It becomes a fireball, brighter than 1,000 suns. It is moving at 20 kilometers per second. That is fast enough to travel from London to Paris in about 15 seconds. The air friction heats its surface to thousands of degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. The asteroid's target is a shallow sea just off the coast of what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The water offers no protection. The final milliseconds are here. The asteroid strikes the Earth. The moment of impact arrives. In that single catastrophic instant, the 150 million year reign of the dinosaurs comes to an end. The energy released is beyond human comprehension. In less than a blink of an eye, the 10-kilometer wide rock from space vaporizes. An immense cavity is blasted into the Earth's crust. It is a wound over 20 kilometers deep and 100 kilometers wide. The impact sent a seismic shockwave of incredible power through the very heart of the planet. This was the entire planet ringing like a bell. On the opposite side of the planet, the ground would have convulsed violently. It threw incomprehensible amounts of material into the sky. Trillions of tons of pulverized and molten rock were ejected high above the atmosphere. These particles re-entered the atmosphere all over the globe, heating up due to air friction. The sky, everywhere on Earth, began to glow a dull, ominous red. It was as if the entire planet was now covered by a giant heating lamp. The air temperature at ground level started to rise, rapidly and dangerously. The effect on the world's forests was catastrophic. Dry leaves, twigs, and whole trees began to spontaneously combust. Fires started everywhere at once. Within hours, vast wildfires were raging across all continents. The smoke from these global fires billowed into the atmosphere, joining the dust and debris already thrown up by the impact. With the sun completely blocked by a thick shroud of soot and dust, the Earth was plunged into artificial night. Photosynthesis, the fundamental process that powers almost all life on Earth, stopped. Plants on land and phytoplankton in the sea could no longer use sunlight to create energy. They began to die on a massive scale. Without sunlight reaching the surface, the planet's temperature plummeted. Global temperatures may have dropped by as much as 25 degrees Celsius. Tropical regions experienced freezing conditions for the first time in millions of years. The long, dark night and the bitter cold triggered a catastrophe on a global scale. This was the Great Dying. On land, the dinosaur stood no chance. The larger a creature was, the more food it needed to survive. With all the plants gone, the giant herbivores starved to death first. Once the plant eaters were gone, the great carnivores soon followed. A Tyrannosaurus rex could not survive in a world without prey. One by one, the last of these magnificent titans succumbed to starvation and the relentless cold. The 150-million-year reign of the dinosaurs came to a quiet and desolate end in the freezing darkness. In the midst of this planetary devastation, some life did cling on. Survival was not about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about being small, adaptable, and perhaps a little bit lucky. Our distant mammalian ancestors were perfectly suited for this kind of world. They were already small, used to living in the shadows. Many lived in burrows underground, which provided excellent insulation against the freezing temperatures. For these tiny, furry creatures, the apocalypse was not an ending, but a profound and unexpected opportunity. Other survivors included crocodiles, some turtles, and small birds that had developed beaks for eating seeds. After months, or perhaps even years, the dust and soot in the atmosphere finally began to settle. A weak, pale sun appeared in the sky. The planet that emerged from the darkness was a ghost of its former self. The first signs of recovery were slow and tentative. The first plants to return were the ferns. For a time, the world was covered in vast fields of ferns, a phenomenon scientists call the fern spike. This new world was a world of opportunity for the survivors. The planet was empty. All the ecological niches the dinosaurs had occupied were now vacant. It was a unique moment in the history of life. For our small, shrew-like ancestors, the world had been transformed from a place of fear into a place of possibility. For the first time in 150 million years, they could walk in the daylight without terror of being stepped on by a giant dinosaur. This newfound freedom sparked an evolutionary explosion. With no dinosaurs to keep them small and nocturnal, mammals began to diversify at an incredible rate. They grew larger and began to adapt to the empty roles left behind. Within just a few 100,000 years after the impact, mammals were evolving into forms that would be unrecognizable from their tiny, burrowing ancestors. Some evolved to eat plants. Others became predators. The Cenozoic era, the Age of Mammals, had truly begun. The initial phase of recovery gave way to an incredible burst of creativity in the animal kingdom. This was a biological renaissance. With no dinosaurs to compete with, mammals diversified at a rate never seen before. They exploded into a bewildering array of shapes and sizes, conquering the land, the air, and even returning to the sea. On the plains, the first horse-like creatures appeared, small animals no bigger than a fox. Great lumbering beasts called Wintertheres, with bizarre knobby horns, took on the role of giant herbivores. Some mammals returned to the water, the domain of the once mighty mosasaurs. The ancestors of whales, which were then four-legged, vaguely wolf-like creatures, began to spend more time in coastal waters. At the same time, another group of mammals took to the skies. Bats evolved, their forelimbs transforming into wings, allowing them to claim the night sky, a niche the birds had not fully conquered. This incredible diversification shows the power of evolution to fill a vacuum. The asteroid impact created the biggest ecological vacuum in the last 250 million years. The survivors were given a world to remake in their own image. Among the incredible diversity of new mammals, one group is of particular importance to our own story. These were the primates. Emerging shortly after the extinction, these small creatures took to the trees of the recovering forests. They had grasping hands and feet, nails instead of claws, and most importantly, their eyes were shifting to the front of their faces. This gave them stereoscopic vision, crucial for leaping from branch to branch. This long, slow journey through the trees was the crucible that forged the key attributes of humanity. Our grasping hands, sharp three-dimensional vision, and complex brains all have their origins in this arboreal past. The story of the Chicxulub impact is more than just a tale of destruction. It is our own origin story, written in stone and starlight. The immense crater is a profound reminder of the fragility of life and the powerful role that chance plays. Without that asteroid, the world we know today simply would not exist. The long reign of the dinosaurs would likely have continued, and the small mammals would have remained in the shadows. We are here because the dinosaurs are not. We owe our existence to a random cosmic collision that ended one world and created the conditions for a new one to begin. It is humbling to consider that our entire history is built upon the foundation of such a cataclysmic event. When we look up at the night sky, we often see a scene of peace and tranquility. But the story of Chicxulub gives us a different perspective. It teaches us that the universe is a dynamic and sometimes chaotic place. For the first time in Earth's 4.5 billion year history, a species has emerged that can understand its own past and contemplate its own future. The dinosaurs could not see the asteroid coming. We can. Ultimately, this is a story of connection. It connects us to the deep past, to the vast expanse of space, and to the future. The same elements that made up that fateful asteroid also make up our planet and our bodies. We are all part of the same cosmic story.